Right, thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. The news update now. 18 persons are confirmed to have died when 4 suicide bombers infiltrated Monagari community in Konduga local government area of Borno State.
Now, the first of several explosions happened at the prayer ground, while the blast occurred immediately after within the community. Now, 29 people sustained several degrees of injuries and were taken to the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital and the State Specialist Hospital. The police has restored normalcy in that area. Senator Ali Ndume, suspended 8 months ago from the upper legislative chamber, is back at work.
The Senate leadership agreed after a closed-door meeting on Tuesday that Ndume had served his 6-month suspension and will be allowed back. He was suspended in March after he was indicted for raising an alarm over the integrity of some senators, including Senate President Bukola Saraki. The suspension was extended to in September to November. And Zimbabwe is still on edge as President Robert Mugabe and his wife Grace are still being held by military men who insist it has not launched a coup.
And also detained is Finance Minister Ignatius Chombo. A dismissed Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa flew back into the country yesterday, raising speculations on a plan of a change in government. Exactly, we're talking about the issues in Zimbabwe as we get along.
For now, let's just cut to the chase and get on to our next discussion, healthcare. Now, healthcare delivery in Nigeria leaves a lot to be desired as funding provided by government barely takes care of the many challenges in the sector.
Many Nigerians still die from curable ailments due to the poor input from government in healthcare. Let's bring you some information and look at how far the allocation for health in the proposed 2018 budget will go in addressing some of the issues in the sector. Now, the allocation for health is contained in the 2018 budget is 340.45 billion naira. Now, the bulk of that sum, 269 billion naira, will go to recurrent expenditure, that is payment of salaries and overheads, while 71 billion naira will be spent on capital projects.
Now, the World Health Organization recommends that 15% of the country's entire budget be dedicated to the health sector. Now, this means the allocation for health going by this recommendation should be about 1.3 trillion naira as opposed to the 340 billion naira for 2018. In 2016, the health sector got 250 billion naira. In 2017, the sum of 308 billion naira was allocated to health, and for next year, the sector might get 340.45 billion naira.
Now, Nigeria has one of the lowest health budgets in Africa. Gambia, Malawi, Swaziland, South Africa, Angola, and Ethiopia spend more on health than Nigeria. In fact, Rwanda has been the benchmark case when you're talking about a system that is working on the African continent.
Yes.
Now, we have a safety health manager, Ehi Iden, in the studio with us right now. Ehi, good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome. Nice to see you.
Same here.
Well, I know you've been following the budget allocation because that's where we're going to start from somehow. How concerned are you when you saw the allocation for the health sector, especially breaking it down, seeing how much is there for recurrent expenditure and seeing how much is there for capital expenditure?
When I saw that allocation, I wasn't surprised.
Okay, why not?
Because it's what has always been. We, as a country, we do not give priority to things that really matter, mostly health. But I must say here that the development, the economy of a nation is predicated on 2 major factors. How much you give attention to your healthcare of the people and how much you spend on education. And these 2 critical areas, government has never given attention. I mean, look at what the figure that have been read out. What government allocates to each Nigerian per annum is less than 2,000 naira from the budget. So how does that take care of a human being? I mean, the reports were written as a president that's in prison in Guatemala. What he gets in a year to take care of him is more than $7 million. But here, a man who walks around the street, that works day and night, what you have as provision for such a person is less than 2,000. So this just tells you how government have really neglected the healthcare sector and how it's impacted fully.
What do you think really is responsible for this neglect? You just pointed out education, we're not doing well there. Government doesn't seem to appreciate the fact that education is important. With health, it's the same thing. What is the underlying factor here? What is missing?
I wish we can really say what the problems are. But most time I see that in my enclave and I just think if the people who actually allocate these finances are really thinking. I don't know what you want to achieve by allocating such a very meager amount to take care of the health of the people. And you know, where it even pains me is that even our own government have signed in many UN declarations, conventions, you know, that, okay, we are agreed to take it up to 15% as you read out. Even the Abuja Declaration of 2001 by African Union, they even appeal to all governments in Africa continent, please take up your healthcare budget to 15%. And Nigeria also consented, not just consented, we even hosted it. But since that time, 2001 to date, nothing has changed to tell you how far it has been. But you see other countries that actually attend, like Rwanda, you gave an example. Look at Rwanda, look at Malawi, look at even Zambia, look at even Libya. I don't know what the problem is. And this, to a great deal, has a huge impact on our people, the landscape of the country, the economy, and everything. It takes healthy people to plan and govern a healthy nation. The question you ask yourself, why are healthcare investors not being attracted to Nigeria? The attention you give is the attention you receive. We have not given enough attention to your healthcare sector in Nigeria. There's no fund coming in.
So you have some countries like the UAE moving on to medical tourism, and Nigerians are beneficiaries of this, and of course countries like India. Where should we really begin from to change this narrative? Buhari only recently, while he was presenting the budget, called on the National Assembly to expedite action on the passage of the bill for the NCDC. That's the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. Bearing in mind the many outbreaks that occurred during the year, from Lassa fever to even snake bites that killed some 200
killed a lot of people.
Over 200 people.
Monkeypox.
Monkeypox and. Okay, so now when the president says the National Assembly should do this, is it leaving the responsibility at the doorstep of the National Assembly, or should it start from the executive that comes up with these budgets?
It should start from the executive, in my estimation. And the way it should start really is for us to start really putting data together. We plan with our data. The executive doesn't even have, I don't think they have enough data of what's really happening within the healthcare sector. So it's a huge thing. It's not to pass the ball to the National Assembly, you must do this. The executive know what we spend in healthcare and how we want it to be. And they should be, okay, by this and the data we have at our disposal, this is what we're looking at. When you go to the National Assembly, all you need to do is to defend what you have put before them. I think that's it. It's not their responsibility.
It's not rocket science.
No, when you don't have the data to actually support all that you're doing. I give you an example. Nigeria doesn't even have, I don't think we have enough robust birth and death rate data. We don't have those data. And these are very clear public health issues, because any country needs to have precise birth and death record to plan for the nation, not just the birth and death record, the demography, what the population that we're giving, how many male we're giving birth to in S&S time, how many female we're giving birth to, how many men above 40 died. We need to have this record, because you don't even know who you are planning for. When you know you are planning for a younger population, then the content of your budget changes. But we don't have this. So we just want to say, okay, how much did we give to healthcare last year? Maybe about 10%. Okay, let's make it 10.1%. It's not a guesswork. Let's look at the trajectory, the trends of health outcome that we have for the past 1 year. Like you mentioned, monkeypox, we never had it. Look how we had meningitis. This happened because we don't even have enough funds. Where other countries are spending money on health promotion and public health issues, we are spending a lot of money on curative medicine. But when we really have enough budget and make provision for preventive health and health promotion,
primary health care,
you will reduce how much you spend on curative health. Because the person you have actually spoken to, you have I've been able to actually put the health promotion tool on how to actually have what we call lifestyle modification, live healthy lifestyle. You find out that the possibility of such person coming down and run to the clinic and say, doctor, I'm sick, it reduces. We're not even having this statistic, we're not having this data, so it's a whole lot.
Okay,
So, okay.
let's put you on hold a little bit, and let's take a little breather,
Break, yes,
and then we'll be back. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
Right, you're welcome back. We're looking at the many ills bedeviling Nigeria's health sector. Why have governments over the years not paid the right attention to the health sector? Of course, the 15% is recommended, but Nigeria is not doing anywhere near that when it comes to budgetary allocations for the health sector. We have Ehi Iden, safety health manager, with us in the studio. We've been looking at this now. HIV is still on the rise in Nigeria. Mother-to-child transmission is still one of the highest in the world. TB is still very high. All kinds of diseases breaking out every other month or so in Nigeria. And in the midst of all of this, Nigeria has this allocation, 269 that's recurrent for health, with 71 going for capital expenditure. How do we get out of this? How do we hold government really responsible for our health? Because the many strikes that the doctors have gone on has not changed anything.
I think it's just for us to have government that is modern day thinking. That is the best way I can answer that. A government that is modern day thinking. I take you back to the year where Professor Lambo was the Minister of Health. That's about the best time Nigeria ever actually had.
And Professor Ransom Kuti.
Yes. You know, you look at this guy, he wasn't even a doctor. He was just a professor of health economics. And, you know, where we take it down to is where we hold the healthcare sector. We hold it, it must be for us. And there's this kind of tough wall that exists within that sector. And until we first break down these walls, then if we don't break down these walls, we just allow government to do what they're doing.
Wars between who now? We need to clarify on that.
Who owns the healthcare sector across the world right now? Across the world right now, it's no longer the traditional norm. I must be a doctor to be the Minister of Health.
Okay.
But here, that's what happens. If you remember the case of when the late Dora Aquino was still around, I think during the Yar'Adua's campaign, there was every body language that she might be the Minister of Health. There was a lot of protests. Why must she be?
That she's not, after all, she's not...
we have to understand that healthcare sector is a system made up of many compartments and not just one profession. And this exists amongst the healthcare sector on its own. And when this exists, you fight amongst yourself. Then you just give government the room to do what they want to do. Let's come together and start putting data together amongst ourselves. What do we need from the nursing end to actually make healthcare better? What do we need from the physician's end to make healthcare better? What do we need from the physiotherapy end to make healthcare, the pharmacy end? We were able to actually collate this data, put them together. It gives us a clear picture of what we really need and a good figure to be negotiating with, discussing with government.
Now, in all of these loopholes that we discover over the decades and so on, we still don't see private sector investment in health the way it is supposed to, because it's a very open window that is lacking. We were expecting that private sector would have cashed in on this unavailable investment from government.
Because it seems government doesn't seem to be able to handle it at all.
That might not be rightly correct, because Nigerian healthcare sector right now, you have a lot of key private players. Take a swipe at all the cities, the big cities. Look at the flagship hospitals. They are not owned by government. There are people that have never been to government hospitals to actually access care.
Although we know there are private hospitals, but the point there is, if the quantum of investment, because the point there is, there is still, even with the availability of all of this, there's still so much.
I got you. Yes, I agree with you.
Exactly, because it's like a business. It should be seen like a business.
The private investors in Nigeria may not have that kind of capital they need to actually invest in healthcare sector. Now they have to seek capital and partnership externally. Okay. But the person that lives offshore of this country and the external investor does not see Nigerian healthcare sector as
lucrative,
because they want to see what government is doing. Like I was telling you off the screen before, if you take Dubai as an example,
yes,
Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum said he wants to make Dubai a destination for healthcare in the world. And he said that many years ago, but today it's coming to pass.
Yes.
That's why you're having big brands coming to Dubai. Go to Dubai right now, you find out that most of the investment you have in healthcare are not even owned by the Arabians, are owned by Indians. You created that environment for them to actually ensure that if I'll put in my fund into this place and invest, I know that it's profitable, I know my funds are safe. But we haven't had, that's where the government also comes in, to actually ensure that there is that fair playing ground.
Make it more attractive
exactly.
for the private
body
sector
language,
to come in.
Let's show commitment for the ones you even have. Look at Nigeria as a whole right now. Even we are losing more healthcare workers than any country is ever losing as of today.
70% of black doctors in the United States are Nigerian doctors. If you go to the UAE, many Nigerian doctors, anywhere you go to in the world, you find
UK,
Nigerian doctors and
thing.
nurses. And
you know where it pains? You know where it pains? We are losing doctors to foreign countries. Then even the infrastructure we need to train younger doctors
are not there.
Are not even there. So what is the hope? So some time ago, we were doing a center for a doctor when I was still living in Port Harcourt. He got a job in Oman. But I can't forget his statement. It's still very fresh. He said, yeah, we seem to be happy for him because he's going to work at Oman. But he weeps from the depth of his heart because he knows that a day is going to come that Nigeria is going to import doctors from India. We're almost there.
Wow.
We're almost there. We're not investing. That's why I said that, understanding the infrastructure we have, even as a country, in healthcare, those infrastructure is also, they're also needed to also train doctors.
And there's
doctors that are leaving school.
infrastructure dearth right from Aso Villa to my village.
At least we've heard of the First Lady and the issues around the Aso Villa
it's really, it's almost disheartening, almost depressing, really. Nigerians spend 500 billion naira every year on medical treatment abroad, and that is only scratching the surface. We really have to leave it there, unfortunately. Ehi Iden is Safety Health Manager. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Of course, we'll be calling on you again to look at this for us. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, there's more to talk about on TVC Breakfast.